Right now, in the quiet of this room, your mind may be doing the very thing it has done for so many nights before. As the busy world outside finally slows down and falls silent, your thoughts might be speeding up, sifting through the extensive, heavy archives of your past. You might be replaying old conversations, analyzing past decisions, or holding up a harsh, unforgiving magnifying glass to the moments where you feel you fell short. Maybe you came here tonight because you are carrying a heavy, cold weight in the center of your chest, the exhausting, isolating, and deeply lonely burden of your own self-judgment. You have been acting as your own harshest judge and your own strictest punisher. Perhaps you believe that if you simply remind yourself of your flaws often enough, if you hold on to the sharp sting of regret tightly enough, you will somehow fix yourself. You might secretly believe that suffering endlessly over your past mistakes is what makes you a responsible, good person, and that forgiving yourself would mean you are simply letting yourself off the hook. And so you lie awake, turning the sharp, broken edges of your memories over and over in your tired hands, letting them cut you, convinced that you somehow deserve the pain. But before we go any further into that dark, cold place, I want you to simply pause. Let the quiet of this room slowly wrap around you. Notice the dim light, perhaps the soft, pale silver of moonlight tracing a gentle path across the floor or resting lightly against the wall. Listen to the distant sounds of the night outside, the faint rustle of wind moving through the sleeping trees, the quiet hum of the world continuing to spin while you finally lie down. The night air outside your window is cool and calm, asking absolutely nothing of you. Allow yourself to feel the comforting weight of the blanket over your body. Feel the soft, accepting shape of the pillow rising to meet your head. You do not need to hold yourself up anymore. The mattress beneath you is sturdy, wide, and fully capable of carrying your weight. If it feels right, take a slow breath in through your nose, letting the cool, quiet air fill your chest, and as you exhale, feel your body softening. Feel the tight muscles in your jaw beginning to loosen. Let your shoulders, which have been braced as if preparing for a sudden blow, drop an inch deeper into the bed. You are safe enough to soften. Nothing is required of you now, dear friend. The relentless self-punishment you are carrying is not making you stronger, and it is not keeping you safe. It is only making you impossibly tired. The true paradox of our suffering is this. We exhaust ourselves trying to punish the past into changing, simply because we are afraid to meet our own brokenness with love. The mind does not become peaceful because you finally achieve absolute perfection. It becomes peaceful when you stop using your imperfections as a weapon against your own heart. Self-forgiveness does not begin when the past magically disappears. It begins when you stop treating every memory as a courtroom where you are always found guilty. You are not broken. What you are feeling is not failure. It is simply the profound ache of a heart that has confused endless self-criticism with growth. The very thing you are fighting, your own human fragility, may actually be the doorway to the peace you have been desperately searching for. Tonight, we will not try to defeat your pain. We will learn how to hold it differently. Tonight, we will not force the mind to be silent. We will gently learn how to stop following every critical thought down the dark, familiar roads of shame. You do not have to solve your whole life tonight. You only have to breathe and listen and allow yourself to be exactly as you are. Maybe you have felt this too, that quiet, lonely ache of believing that everyone else has it figured out, while you are somehow permanently flawed. Over time, you have built a powerful identity around this shame. You have convinced yourself that to be worthy of love, to be worthy of belonging, and to be worthy of rest, you must be entirely flawless. And because no human being is flawless, you often feel like a shattered clay bowl. You constantly hide your broken pieces in the dark, terrified that if anyone truly sees the cracks, you will be discarded, judged, and left behind. As you lie here listening to the calm cadence of my voice, let your breathing become a little slower, a little deeper. There is nowhere you need to go. There is no one you need to impress, and absolutely nothing you need to prove. The mistakes of yesterday cannot be rewritten by your worry, and the challenges of tomorrow have not yet arrived. The only thing that exists right now is the gentle rise and fall of your chest, the slow, rhythmic, effortless tide of your own breath. Allow your arms to rest heavily by your sides. Notice if your hands are curled into fists, as if they are still holding on to the sharps of old regrets. If they are, gently, and with deep compassion, invite your fingers to uncurl. Let your palms open softly toward the ceiling. In this simple physical gesture, you are sending a profound message to your exhausted nervous system. I am putting the weapon down. I am no longer fighting myself tonight. It is a brave thing to finally admit that you are exhausted from hating yourself. It is a deeply spiritual act to surrender the need to be perfect. For so long, you have confused healthy remorse with toxic shame. Remorse is a natural, gentle recognition of a misstep. It is the quiet realization that you wish you had done better. But shame is the heavy, suffocating belief that you are the mistake. You have thought that if you could just endure a little more self-directed anger, then eventually you would earn your right to be at peace. But rest is not a reward for flawless behavior. Self-compassion is not a prize given only to the perfect. It is the necessary soothing medicine for the human condition. In the quiet wisdom of the Buddhist tradition, there is a deep, beautiful understanding that your fundamental worth can never be permanently ruined. You are like a vast, clear mirror. The dust of mistakes, confusion, and fear may gather on the surface, but the mirror itself remains pure and unbroken beneath it all. You have been staring at the dust, crying over the dust, and punishing yourself for the dust, forgetting entirely about the beautiful, unshakable glass underneath. Tonight, we are going to explore the gentle art of setting down the heavy stones of regret. We are going to explore the wisdom of softening the heart toward your own reflection and releasing the exhausted ego that believes it must be punished to be purified. Letting go of your shame does not mean you stop caring about how you treat others. It means you stop turning your care into a prison of suffering. It means you allow yourself the grace to be wonderfully, perfectly human, which means being vulnerable, making mistakes, and occasionally needing to be gently put back together. If it feels comfortable, let your eyes sink a little heavier into their sockets. Feel the space between your eyebrows smooth out completely. Every time you exhale, imagine a physical wave of heavy, warm relaxation washing down from the crown of your head, cascading over your shoulders, pouring down your back, traveling through your legs, and exiting out through the soles of your feet. Let the bed hold you. It is sturdy. It will not drop you. As you settle deeper into this safe, quiet cocoon, let me prepare to share a story with you. It is an old story born from the quiet, mist-covered mountains of a distant time, about a devoted young apprentice much like you, someone who made a mistake, someone who felt the crushing, isolating weight of sudden shame, and someone who eventually learned the beautiful, unexpected relief of compassion. Allow the gentle atmosphere of the story to slowly form in your mind. Do not try to analyze its meaning or force yourself to understand its riddle immediately. Simply let my words wash over you like a soft, warm rain on dry earth. Keep breathing slowly. Keep trusting the stillness of the room. We are journeying together now away from the loud, demanding voice of the inner critic and into the quiet, patient sanctuary of your own inherently worthy heart. High up in a distant, mist-covered mountain range, where the air is incredibly thin and constantly smells of ancient pine and wet stone, there was once a very small, quiet monastery. It was a place defined by its profound stillness. The only sounds were the wind moving through the deep forest, the occasional striking of a large bronze bell, and the soft, rhythmic sweeping of wooden brooms against the courtyard stones. Living in this monastery was a very young, deeply devoted apprentice. This boy had a heart that was eager, pure, and desperately anxious. He wanted more than anything to be good. He wanted to be perfect. He measured his entire worth by his ability to follow the rules, to perform his duties flawlessly, and to never, ever be a burden to the older monks. He believed that the love and shelter he received at the monastery were conditional, dependent entirely upon his perfect behavior. One crisp, cold morning, just as the pale silver light of dawn was beginning to touch the highest peaks, the head had entrusted the young apprentice with a very specific, honorable task. He was asked to go to the sacred spring at the edge of the forest, fill the master's antique ceramic water bowl, and carry it carefully back to the main meditation hall. This bowl was not an ordinary object. It was incredibly old, passed down through generations of teachers. It was large, heavy, and glazed in a breathtaking, deep ocean blue, completely smooth and flawless to the young boy. The bowl was a physical manifestation of his own worthiness. The fact that he had been trusted to carry it meant that he was valued. He walked to the spring with the utmost care, his chest tight with concentration. He filled the heavy blue bowl with the crystal-clear mountain water. He held it out in front of him with both hands, his knuckles white from gripping the ceramic so tightly. He watched his feet, taking slow, hypervigilant steps back up the winding stone path toward the monastery. He was so focused on not making a mistake, so tense with the fear of failure, that his body was rigid, incapable of adapting to the uneven ground. About halfway up the path, the morning dew made one of the smooth river stones terribly slick. The boy's straw sandal caught the edge of the wet stone. His foot slipped. For one terrifying, suspended second, he lost his balance. He tried frantically to catch himself, but the heavy bowl slipped from his tight, sweating hands. It hit the stone path with a harsh, violent, shattering crack that echoed loudly through the quiet morning forest. The blue ceramic exploded into dozens of sharp, jagged pieces. The sacred spring water splashed across the dirt, darkening the earth, and then quickly soaked away into nothing. The boy fell to his knees. He stopped breathing. He stared at the shattered pieces of the ancient bowl, and in that terrible moment, he did not just feel that he had made a mistake. He felt a cold, crushing, suffocating wave of absolute shame wash over his entire being. He looked at the broken pieces and thought, "I am ruined. I am a failure. I have destroyed something beautiful, and now I will be cast out. I am completely unworthy of this place." Panic overtook him, his hands trembling violently. He began to frantically scoop up the sharp ceramic shards from the dirt. He was moving so fast, so recklessly in his desperate need to hide the evidence of his flaw, that the jagged edges sliced into the soft skin of his palms. Blood mixed with the mountain dirt. But the boy barely felt the physical pain. The agony in his mind was far louder. He believed he deserved the cuts. He believed the pain in his hands was the rightful punishment for his clumsiness. He clutched the broken, sharp pieces tightly against his chest, staining his simple robe. But he did not turn back toward the monastery. He was too ashamed to face the master. He was too terrified of the judgment he was certain awaited him. Instead, he turned and ran deep into the dense, dark woods, away from the path, away from the light, until he found a shallow, damp cave carved into the side of a rocky hill. He crawled inside, pressing himself into the deepest, darkest corner. He curled his body into a tight, defensive ball, shivering in the freezing mountain air, still gripping the sharp, broke pieces of the bowl in his bleeding hands. He sat there for hours. As the sun rose and moved across the sky, warming the world outside, the boy remained trapped in the cold dark of the cave. He refused to eat. He refused to seek warmth. He sat in the center of a brutal, relentless internal courtroom, acting as both the prosecutor and the judge, condemning himself over and over again. He told himself he would stay in this dark, lonely place forever. It was exactly what a broken, foolish boy deserved. Does this cold, damp cave feel familiar to you? Have you ever made a mistake or fallen short of an impossible standard and immediately run into the dark, isolating caves of your own mind? Have you ever clutched the sharp edges of a past regret so tightly that it caused you to bleed, refusing to let it go because you believed you deserved to suffer? The day slowly turned into evening. The light in the forest began to fade, replaced by the deep indigo shadows of twilight. The boy was utterly exhausted, his body aching, his hands throbbing, his tears having long since dried into salt on his pale cheeks. Then he heard a sound. It was the very soft, slow, steady crunch of footsteps walking deliberately over the dry pine needles outside the cave. The boy held his breath, his heart hammering against his ribs. He squeezed his eyes shut, bracing himself for the anger, the yelling, and the final judgment. A soft, warm, golden light slowly pushed back the shadows of the cave. The boy opened his eyes just a fraction to see an old, gentle elder monk, one of the quietest teachers in the monastery, standing at the entrance. The elder was holding a small paper lantern, its yellow flame flickering softly in the cold air. The elder did not shout. He did not demand to know where the sacred bowl was. He did not reprimand the boy for running away or missing his duties. Instead, the old monk moved slowly into the cramped, damp space. He lowered his frail body down onto the cold earth, sitting directly in the dirt right beside the trembling boy. He set the warm lantern down between them, casting a soft, forgiving glow over the boy's terrified face and his tightly clenched fists. For a long time, the elder simply sat there, breathing slowly, offering his quiet, steady presence. He let the silence stretch out, allowing the boy's panicked nervous system to slowly recognize that there was no threat here. There was no attack coming. Finally, the elder spoke. His voice was no louder than the rustling of the leaves outside. "May I see what you are holding so tightly?" he asked. The boy sobbed, a wretched, heartbreaking sound. Slowly, with great hesitation, he uncurled his stiff, aching fingers. He revealed the jagged, broken shards of the beautiful blue bowl, covered in dirt and his own dried blood. "I ruined it," the boy whispered, his voice cracking with exhaustion. "I ruined the master's bowl. I ruined everything. I am so sorry. I am not good enough to be here." The elder looked down at the broken pieces of ceramic. He did not sigh. He did not look disappointed. He simply reached out and gently, carefully, took the sharp shards out of the boy's trembling hands. He set the broken clay aside, placing it gently on the cave floor, out of the boy's reach. Then, the elder reached into the wide sleeve of his robe. He brought out a small wooden flask of clean, warm water and a soft white cotton cloth. The elder gently took the boy's dirty, bleeding hands into his own warm, weathered palms. With profound tenderness, he poured a little water onto the cloth and began to slowly wash the cuts. He cleaned away the dirt. He wiped away the blood. He moved with such incredible care, treating the boy's battered hands as if they were the most precious, sacred objects in the entire world. The boy stared in absolute disbelief. He was waiting for the punishment, but all he was receiving was profound, gentle care. "You are crying over baked earth, my child," the elder whispered softly, not looking up from his gentle washing. The bowl was beautiful, yes, but it was only a shape that the clay took for a little while. All things that take a shape will eventually lose that shape. It is the nature of glass to break. It is the nature of clay to shatter. The elder paused, resting the boy's clean, stinging hands softly in his own. He looked up, meeting the boy's terrified, exhausted eyes with a gaze of boundless, unshakable compassion. "But you," the elder said, his voice thick with a deep, loving resonance, "you are a living, breathing heart. You are a life. Why do you punish your beautiful heart for the clumsy mistakes of your feet?" The boy's rigid, braced shoulders finally dropped. The incredible heavy wall of his shame cracked and crumbled all at once. The exhaustion of his self-punishment gave way to a massive full-body release, and he leaned forward, weeping softly into the old monk's shoulder. The elder just held him, rubbing his back slowly, letting him cry out all the terror, all the guilt, and all the desperate, lonely perfectionism he had been carrying for so long. The boy was not abandoned. He was not cast out. He was not ruined. He was just a human being who had made a mistake and who was, in that very moment, completely, entirely, safely loved. As you lie here in the quiet of your room, let the warmth of that small paper lantern settle gently into your own mind. Feel the softness of the elder's cloth against your own invisible wounds. In a moment, we will look deeply at what this beautiful, quiet intervention means for the heavy regrets you have been carrying in your own life. We will explore how to stop treating yourself like a shattered object and how to begin treating yourself like a living, breathing heart. But for now, just rest. Just breathe in the cool air, and let the gentle truth of the story hold you safely in the dark. As the image of the old monk and the weeping boy slowly settles into the quiet space of your mind, take a gentle, unhurried breath. Notice the cool, calm air entering your chest and feel the soft, heavy release as it leaves. Picture the warm, flickering glow of that small paper lantern illuminating the damp walls of the cave, pushing back the frightening shadows. See the broken, sharp pieces of the blue bowl resting safely on the dirt floor, no longer being clutched, no longer causing harm, and feel the profound, soothing relief of having your own tired, aching hands gently washed in warm water. If it feels right, bring your awareness back to your own hands right now, resting quietly beside you on the bed. Notice if there is any lingering tension in your fingers. Notice if you are still subtly gripping the sheets or holding your hands tightly closed. With profound gentleness, invite them to soften. Let them rest open, entirely empty, completely safe in the dark. This ancient story of the mountain and the shattered bowl is not just a tale about a clumsy apprentice. It is a mirror reflecting the quiet, hidden architecture of your own suffering. For a very long time, you have been that devoted, terrified young boy. You have been walking through the dense, unpredictable forests of your life, carrying the heavy, fragile burden of your own expectations. You have held the need to be perfect so tightly that it has made your body rigid and your heart anxious. And when you have stumbled, because it is the absolute nature of human beings, to stumble, you have not just felt a natural pang of regret, you have felt a crushing, devastating wave of absolute shame. When you make a mistake, when you say the wrong thing, when you fail to meet a goal, or when a relationship fractures, you immediately run into the dark, cold caves of your own mind. You isolate yourself in your guilt. You sit in the dark and you gather up the sharp, broken pieces of your regret, and you grip them as tightly as you can. You let the memories cut you over and over again because a deep, frightened part of you believes that this pain is what you deserve. You believe that if you punish yourself severely enough, you will somehow pay the debt for your brokenness. But Buddhist wisdom offers us a profoundly different way to look at our pain. When the Buddha spoke of human suffering, he was not speaking as a distant, unfeeling philosopher. He was acting as a gentle physician of the heart. He saw that the world will always have its slippery stones. Life will always bring moments of failure, misunderstanding, and loss. Things that we love will eventually break. This is what the Buddha called the first arrow. It is the natural, unavoidable pain of simply being alive. When the boy dropped the bowl, the breaking of the clay was the first arrow. When you realize you have made a mistake, that sudden, sinking feeling of genuine regret is the first arrow. We cannot avoid this pain. It is the cost of living in a world where things are fragile. But the tragedy of our exhaustion does not come from the first arrow. It comes from what happens next, the deepest suffering, the agonizing, lonely, bleeding pain in the dark cave is the second arrow. The second arrow is what the mind adds to the original event. It is the frantic gathering of the sharp pieces. It is the harsh, cruel voice that says, "I am ruined. I am a failure. I am unworthy of love. The suffering was not only in the fact that the bowl broke, the suffering was in the desperate, violent way the boy's mind held onto the broken pieces. Buddhist wisdom helps us see that we are constantly shooting this second arrow into our own hearts. We confuse remorse with shame. Remorse is a healthy, quiet recognition that says, I made a mistake and I wish I had done better. Remorse leaves room for growth. Remorse can be held with open hands. But shame is a heavy, suffocating blanket. Shame says I am a mistake. Shame demands punishment. Shame tells you that you must hide in the cave forever. When the old monk arrived, he did not tell the boy that the bowl was unbroken. He did not pretend the mistake had not happened. This story is not telling us to stop feeling, or to ignore our actions, or to become cold and indifferent to the world. It is showing us something much quieter and infinitely more merciful. It is showing us how to stop adding a second wound to the first. Think about the heavy, painful memories you have been replaying in your mind recently. The moments where you feel you failed someone or failed yourself. You have been treating those memories like the broken shards of ceramic. You are holding them so tightly that they are making your soul bleed. You call this gripping taking responsibility. You think that by feeling terrible, you are being good. We call this heavy grip attachment. In modern life, we often misunderstand this word. We think attachment means loving something deeply. But in the quiet wisdom of the masters, attachment is the desperate, fearful grip that says, I must be seen as flawless, or I cannot be okay. You are attached to an impossible image of yourself. You are attached to a version of your life where the bowl never drops. And craving, then, is the exhausting, endless desire to rewrite the past. It is the desperate wish to go back in time and step differently on the stone path so that the pain can be erased. But this craving only traps you in the cave. It pulls you completely out of the only place where peace actually exists. This very moment right here, lying in this bed, breathing this calm night air. What the elder monk offered the boy is the true essence of compassion. Compassion is not a reward for being perfect. It is not something you only receive after you have fixed all your flaws. Compassion is the warm water washing the dirt and blood from your tired hands exactly when you are at your lowest. It is the profound strength to look at your own mistakes, your own brokenness and your own exhaustion without turning them into a reason to hate yourself. The elder reminded the boy of the deep truth of impermanence. It is the nature of clay to shatter, he said. Everything in this world is in a constant state of changing, shifting, arriving, and departing. Your mistakes are not permanent fixtures of your soul. Your regrets are not solid objects. They are just passing weather patterns in the vast, open sky of your life. When you attach your entire identity to a mistake, you forget your true nature. You forget that you are not the broken clay. You are a living, breathing heart. You are a vast, spacious awareness that is capable of holding both the mistake and the forgiveness at the exact same time. Letting go, therefore, does not mean you erase the past. It does not mean you suddenly stop caring about the people you may have hurt or the opportunities you may have missed. Letting go simply means you open your hands. You set the sharp, jagged pieces of shame down on the floor. You recognize that you cannot put the ceramic back together by squeezing it until you bleed. You only cause more pain in the world when you refuse to forgive yourself. As you lie higher, safe and sheltered in the quiet of the night, realize that the trial is over. The courtroom in your mind can finally be cleared. You have been serving a life sentence for the simple crime of being human. You do not need to earn your rest tonight. The blanket covering you does not require an explanation of how perfect you were today. The pillow beneath your head does not ask for proof of your flawless character. The night air does not judge the thoughts in your mind. The physical world is already holding you perfectly, exactly as you are, cracks and all. Peace is not the state of never making a mistake. Peace is the quiet, steady rhythm of your breathing right after you have forgiven yourself for making one. It is the warm light of the lantern replacing the cold darkness of the cave. Slowly, gently, we are going to learn how to let the mind follow the body into that exact same embrace. We are going to practice being the elder monk to our own frightened inner apprentice. We are going to gently practice opening the tight fist of the mind and washing our own emotional wounds with the warm water of deep, unshakable awareness. In a moment, we will bring this wisdom inward. We will not force your regrets to vanish instantly, and we will not demand that your mind become perfectly blank. We will simply offer your tired, self-judging heart a softer place to land. But for now, just allow the words you have heard to wash over you. Let them settle wherever they are needed. You are perfectly safe right where you are. Breathe in the cool, quiet air, and let the broken pieces rest on the ground. As you rest here, surrounded by the quiet stillness of the night, allow the gentle truth of the elder monk's words to continue echoing softly in your mind. You are a living, breathing heart. You are not a shattered object. Let that realization settle over you like a warm, comforting blanket. If your mind tries to argue with this truth, if it tries to list the reasons why you are the exception and why you deserve to be punished, simply let the mind speak without answering it. You do not have to debate your own worthiness tonight, you only have to breathe. Let us begin to softly untangle the physical knots that shame has tied within your body. For so many of us, the burden of self-punishment is not just a mental exercise, it is a heavy physical weight that we carry every hour of the day. Bring your awareness very gently to the center of your chest. This is often where the cold, isolating ache of regret makes its home. It feels like a tightness, a guarded armor, a subtle holding of the breath that constantly prepares for the next blow. If it feels right, take a slow, deep breath directly into that space in your chest. Imagine that you are breathing in the soft, warm light of the paper lantern. Let the cool air fill your lungs completely, and as you exhale, imagine that heavy, cold knot beginning to loosen, just a fraction. You do not need to force it open. You are simply offering it a little warmth, a little space to breathe. Now, let your attention drift down to your stomach. Notice if you are clenching your muscles there, holding yourself rigidly together out of habit. With a long, slow exhale, invite your stomach to soften entirely. Let it rise and fall effortlessly with the natural tide of your breath. Bring your awareness to your shoulders. Feel how they might be slightly raised, bracing against the memories of the past. Gently, deliberately, let them drop. Feel them sinking deeper into the soft mattress beneath you. The bed is holding you securely. You are not standing on a slippery mountain path right now. You are safe in your room, perfectly sheltered, and there is absolutely nothing you can drop or break tonight. As your body continues to soften and sink into this deep, restful, heavy state, you might find that a familiar, difficult thought drifts into your awareness. Perhaps it is a memory of a time you fell short. Perhaps it is a harsh, critical voice reminding you of a mistake, or a quiet, lingering anxiety that you are simply not enough. When this thought arrives, your first instinct might be to tense your body again. You might feel the sudden urge to shrink away from it, or to immediately agree with it and begin the familiar cycle of punishing yourself. But tonight, we are practicing a different way. We are practicing the gentle wisdom of looking at the pain without adding the second arrow. Do not push the thought away, and do not let it drag you into the dark cave of shame. Just let it be seen. Look at this memory with profound gentleness, as if you are observing a frightened, exhausted traveler who has simply wandered into the room. This thought is not your ultimate truth. It is just your mind's misdirected attempt to keep you safe from future harm. It is trying to protect you, but it is using the wrong tools. Let us softly name this emotional pattern together. You might silently say to yourself, "This is the feeling of regret," or "This is the heavy feeling of my own self-judgment," or simply, This is my mind trying to punish me. By naming it gently, without any anger or frustration, you strip away its terrifying power over you. You create a tiny, beautiful space between who you are and what you are feeling. You step back from being the broken clay, and you become the quiet, spacious awareness that silly notices the clay. Now I invite you to call upon the image of the shattered blue bowl from the mountain path. See one of those broken, sharp pieces clearly in your mind's eye. Imagine that the specific regret or harsh self-judgment you are feeling right now is that sharp shard of ceramic. Picture yourself holding it in your hand. Notice how tightly you are gripping it. Notice how your fingers are curled around the jagged edges, pressing the pain into your own skin. Acknowledge how hard you have worked to hold on to this pain, believing that this suffering was a necessary penance. Acknowledge the sheer exhaustion of holding it for so long. And now, if it feels right, imagine yourself sitting in the quiet, warm glow of the elder monk's lantern. Slowly, deliberately, and with profound self-compassion, uncurl. You do not have to throw the piece away. You do not have to pretend it does not exist. Simply let your hand open. Watch as the sharp shard of ceramic slips from your palm and rests quietly on the soft earth beside you. Hear the faint, dull sound it makes as it touches the ground. You are no longer carrying it. You are no longer using it to cut yourself. It is just a piece of the past, resting in the dirt, entirely harmless now that you have stopped gripping it. Feel the immediate, rushing sense of lightness in your hand, your arm and your chest. The gripping is over. Now imagine the elder monk's small wooden flask of warm water. Imagine taking a soft white cotton cloth, dipping it into that soothing water, and gently washing your own tired, aching hands. Feel the warmth spreading across your palms. Feel the gentle pressure of the cloth wiping away the dirt of the past, washing away the belief that you are permanently stained. As you gently wash your hands in your mind's eye, offer yourself a simple phrase of compassion. You do not need to speak it out loud, just let the words echo softly in your mind. May I forgive myself for being human. May I meet my mistakes with grace. May I be at peace. If your mind suddenly wanders, or if you feel a sudden anxious urge to reach back down and pick that sharp piece of ceramic up again, please do not be angry with yourself. This is simply the deep, ingrained habit of a mind that is terrified of being vulnerable. It is the habit of a heart that does not yet fully trust that it is allowed to be forgiven. If you notice your hand tightening again, smile gently at the urge. Acknowledge the mind's fear, and then, slowly, patiently, let your fingers uncurl one more time. You can return to this open posture whenever you are ready. There is no timeline here. There is no rush to achieve perfect peace. Even noticing that you are gripping the past is a profound act of mindfulness. Even the smallest willingness to set the pain down is a massive victory for your heart. Take a very slow, deep breath in, drawing that cool, calming night air all the way down into your belly, and as you exhale, let your body sink another inch into the mattress. Let the bed take all of your weight. You are perfectly safe. This beautiful, quiet yielding, this uncurling of the fingers and washing of the hands is the gateway to true inner freedom. It is the end of the second arrow. But to truly understand how deeply this compassion can transform your life, we must look a little further down the path. We must explore what happens to the broken pieces after we finally set them down. Because Buddhist wisdom does not simply teach us to abandon our brokenness. It teaches us how to beautifully, remarkably transform it. In a moment, we will travel further in time. We will encounter another quiet teaching, one that will show us that the cracks in our lives are not things to be hidden or despised, but rather the exact places where our greatest strength and beauty are born. But for now, just breathe, just exist. Just allow yourself the incredibly rare luxury of not judging yourself for a single moment. The sharp piece is on the ground, your hands are clean, and you are, at long last, allowed to simply rest in the warm light of your own quiet heart. As the quiet rhythm of your breath continues to anchor you in the safety of this room, allow your mind to drift gently back to the mist-covered mountain. Time, as it always does, flowed forward like a quiet river. Decades passed since that cold evening in the damp cave. The young, terrified apprentice who had shattered the blue ceramic bowl did not remain in the dark. He had been shown a profound, life-altering mercy, and that mercy became the soil in which his entire life took root and grew. The boy eventually became a man, and the man eventually became a teacher himself, a quiet, gentle elder with silver hair, deep laugh lines around his eyes, and hands that moved with a slow, beautiful certainty. He lived in a small, weathered wooden way station further up the mountain path, offering tea and shelter to those who were making the long, difficult journey across the peaks. He was known not for giving grand, complicated lectures, but for the profound, unshakable peace of his presence. People felt entirely safe around him, because he looked at everyone exactly the way the old monk had once looked at him, with a heart completely devoid of judgment. Late one autumn afternoon, as the leaves of the maple trees were turning a deep fiery red and the wind carried the crisp, clean scent of approaching winter, a weary traveler arrived at the way station. This traveler was a man deeply burdened. His clothes were rich and well made, suggesting a life of success in the valley below, but his face was pale, drawn, and heavy with an invisible exhaustion. He did not ask for food. He did not ask for a bed. Instead, he immediately sat down on the hard granite steps of the courtyard, pulled his knees to his chest, and took an object out of his heavy pack. It was a large, smooth, dark river stone. It had once been a perfect oval, a beautiful meditation stone meant to be held in the palm of the hand to ground the mind. But right down the center of the stone was a deep, jagged, ugly crack. It looked as though it had been dropped, striking a hard surface and losing a sharp piece of its smooth edge. The traveler stared at the crack with a look of absolute, burning frustration. His breathing was shallow and fast, and then, with a tight, desperate grip, he pressed the beautiful dark stone against the rough, abrasive granite of the courtyard steps, and began to rub it back and forth. He was trying to grind the stone down. He rubbed the stone against the granite with a frantic, punishing energy. He believed that if he just worked hard enough, if he just scraped away enough of the dark stone's surface, he could eventually grind the entire object down to the depth of the crack. He believed that if he made the stone smaller, he could erase the flaw entirely. He wanted the stone to be perfectly smooth again, no matter how much of it he had to destroy in the process. He sat there for hours as the sun began to dip behind the mountain peaks. His shoulders ached, his hands were cramping. The rough granite was tearing at the skin of his knuckles, leaving them raw and bleeding, but he refused to stop. The sound of his desperate effort echoed through the quiet courtyard, a harsh, grating rhythm of resistance. Do you recognize the heavy, exhausting labor of this traveler? How many times have you sat on the steps of your own life, holding a mistake, a regret, or a perceived flaw, and tried desperately to grind it away? How often have you tried to shrink yourself, punish yourself, or wear yourself down, believing that if you just suffered enough, you could erase the imperfection? You scrape your own heart against the harsh walls of your inner critic, believing that you must destroy the broken parts of yourself to be worthy of love again. The old teacher watched the traveler from the shadow of the wooden porch. He listened to the frantic, exhausting sound of the stone scraping against the granite. He saw the traveler's bleeding knuckles and the tension locked deep in his jaw. The teacher did not march out and demand that the man stop. He knew that you cannot force a frightened mind to simply let go of its defenses. Instead, the teacher turned back into the quiet kitchen. He boiled fresh spring water, he steeped a fragrant, earthy green tea, and he reached into a special wooden cabinet to retrieve a very specific, very precious object. The teacher walked slowly out into the cooling autumn air, carrying a simple wooden tray. He approached the traveler and stopped a few feet away. He did not speak. He simply knelt down on the hard stone and gently placed the tray between them. The traveler paused, his breath ragged, his chest heaving with exhaustion. He looked at the teacher, and then his eyes fell upon the object on the tray. It was a large, deep ocean blue ceramic water bowl, but it was not flawless. It was the exact same bowl that the teacher had shattered in the forest so many decades ago. Yet it was no longer a pile of sharp, terrifying shards. The pieces had been carefully, meticulously put back together. But the cracks had not been hidden. They had not been painted over with blue glaze to pretend the break had never happened. Instead, every single fracture, every jagged line where the clay had separated, had been filled with a brilliant, luminous golden lacquer. The bowl was a breathtaking map of golden rivers. The gold caught the fading autumn light, glowing warmly against the deep blue ceramic. The history of the bowl, its fall, its breaking and its repair, was entirely visible, beautifully illuminated for the whole world to see. It did not look like a ruined thing. It looked like a masterpiece. It looked stronger, deeper, and infinitely more valuable than a bowl that had never known the ground. The traveler stared at the magnificent golden veins. He slowly lowered his dark, cracked river stone, his bleeding hands shaking. "What is this?" the traveler whispered, completely mesmerized. "It is broken, but it is beautiful." The teacher smiled, a soft, incredibly warm expression. "It is my greatest teacher," he replied gently. "Many years ago, when I was very young and very frightened, I dropped this bowl. I shattered it into dozens of pieces. I was so ashamed of my clumsiness, so terrified of my own brokenness, that I ran into a dark cave and wanted to disappear forever." The traveler looked up, his eyes wide. "But you kept it. You put it back together." "I did," the teacher said softly, "but I did not try to pretend the fall never happened. If you try to erase your history, you erase the very lessons that make you wise. I used a sap mixed with gold dust to mend the pieces. In the Zen tradition, we call this kintsugi. It is the practice of repairing what is broken with gold, because we believe that when something has suffered damage and has a history, it becomes more beautiful, not less." The teacher leaned forward slightly, his kind eyes looking deeply into the traveler's exhausted, haunted face. "My friend," the teacher whispered, pointing gently at the dark river stone in the traveler's bleeding hands. "If you keep grinding that stone against the granite to erase the crack, soon you will have no stone left at all. You are trying to destroy the stone to save it. You are destroying yourself to punish a mistake." The words hung in the crisp mountain air, settling over the courtyard like a quiet, heavy blanket of snow. The traveler looked down at his raw, aching hands. He looked at the dark stone, noticing for the first time how much of its beautiful, smooth weight he had already ground away into meaningless dust. He felt the deep, bone-weary exhaustion of trying to be perfect. He realized that his relentless self-punishment had not fixed the crack, it had only caused him to bleed. He looked back at the blue bowl, tracing the brilliant, unapologetic veins of gold with his eyes. The gold did not apologize for the cracks. It illuminated them. It honored the fact that the bowl had survived. The traveler did not magically become a perfectly enlightened man in that moment. His knuckles still stung. His heart still carried the heavy memory of whatever mistake had driven him up the mountain. The crack in his stone was still there. But a profound, quiet shift occurred within his chest. The desperate, violent need to erase his past suddenly dissolved. He realized that his brokenness did not disqualify him from peace. Slowly, with a deep, shuddering exhale that seemed to empty his lungs of decades of tension, the traveler set the dark river stone down on the wooden tray right beside the golden bowl. He let go of the need to fix it. He let go of the need to punish it. He opened his raw, tired hands, resting them gently on his knees. The teacher nodded softly. He picked up a small clay teapot, and poured the warm, fragrant green tea into 2 cups. He handed one to the traveler. The traveler took it with both hands, feeling the soothing warmth seep into his battered skin. He took a slow sip, tasting the earth, the rain, and the quiet mountain air. For the first time in his life, he sat with his imperfection, and he did not fight it. He simply allowed the evening to fall, entirely at peace with his flaws. This beautiful, quiet transformation is waiting for you, dear friend. You have spent so much of your life scraping your own heart against the rough stone of self-judgment. You have believed that if you punish your mistakes harshly enough, you can erase them and finally become pure, but you are only wearing away your own beautiful spirit. What if, instead of trying to grind away your flaws, you learn to fill your cracks with gold? What if you looked at the places where you have been broken, the places where you have failed, and met them with profound golden compassion? In a moment, we will look deeply at what this golden repair actually means for your daily life. We will explore how to stop the exhausting habit of self-destruction and how Buddhist wisdom teaches us to gather our broken pieces and make ourselves beautifully whole again. But for now, just breathe. Feel the warmth of the tea. Notice the unclenching of your own hands. You do not have to grind the stone tonight. You are allowed to simply rest exactly as you are. As the image of the traveler finally resting his raw, bleeding hands slowly settles into the quiet space of your mind, take a gentle, unhurried breath. Notice how the simple idea of setting down the heavy stone feels within your own body. For a mind that is so incredibly used to constant warfare, the concept of leaving your flaws alone, of not actively trying to punish them out of existence, can feel entirely foreign. It might even feel a little dangerous at first. You might be wondering how you could possibly grow or how you could ever become better if you simply stopped bracing yourself against your own imperfections. To understand why your mind is so terrified of letting go, we must look at the quiet, invisible architecture of your own suffering. We must look at the rough granite steps where you have been sitting and the reasons you felt you had to grind your own heart down in the first place. From a very young age, we are taught to fear uncertainty. We are taught that the unknown is a dark forest full of danger, and that our only defense against it is to prepare, to manage, and to perfectly control every aspect of our lives. Over the years, this deep desire for safety hardens into a rigid psychological armor. You began to believe that if you could just anticipate every possible problem, if you could just be absolutely flawless, you could prevent yourself from ever being hurt, judged, or abandoned. This is why, late at night, when the house is finally quiet and your tired body is begging for rest, your mind suddenly begins to frantically rehearse the future. It plays out endless, exhausting scenarios, imagining conversations that have not yet happened, preparing defenses for conflicts that do not actually exist, and trying to perfectly map out a tomorrow that is entirely unwritten. You are trying to control the wind before it even begins to blow. You believe that if you worry enough, you are somehow keeping yourself safe. And when your mind is not rushing frantically into the future, it is often dragged heavily backward, replaying the past. You sift through old memories, analyzing mistakes, wishing you had spoken differently, wishing you had been smarter, better, or stronger. You do this because a part of you believes that if you just understand the past perfectly, you can somehow fix it, or at least guarantee you will never, ever feel that specific pain again. But this constant mental time travel is exhausting. It pulls you entirely out of the only place where peace actually exists. This very moment right here, lying in this bed, breathing this cool, calm night air. The deepest exhaustion you carry does not come from the things you actually have to do tomorrow. It comes from the heavy, suffocating illusion that you must control how everything unfolds. We confuse control with safety. We believe that if we are the one punishing ourselves, if we are the one finding our own flaws first, then no one else can use them against us. We build an entire identity around this self-judgment. We become the perfectionist, the people-pleaser, the one who desperately needs the approval of others just to feel a fleeting sense of worthiness. Over time, this relentless pursuit of approval becomes a prison. You turn your own pain into your identity. When you make a mistake, you do not simply say, "I dropped the bowl," you say, "I am broken." You take the passing weather of human error and you build a permanent house inside the storm. You have been taught that if you judge yourself harshly enough, you will eventually become a better person. You have believed that shame is a necessary, effective tool for personal growth. You have thought that trying to fix the self through shame is the only way to be loved. But shame has never healed a single human heart. Self-judgment does not make you stronger, it only makes you heavier. It does not erase the crack in the stone, it only causes your hands to bleed. It is the extra suffering poured onto a wound that only ever needed to be washed in warm water. Consider the profound, quiet relief in realizing that almost all of your current exhaustion comes from what you are adding to your pain. Buddhist wisdom offers a remarkably gentle correction to this exhausting way of living. The Buddha observed that as human beings, we are constantly pierced by what he called two arrows. We can think of these as two distinct kinds of pain. The first pain is the inevitable reality of life. It is the moment the bowl slips from your hands. It is the sudden storm, the physical illness, the loss of a relationship, the unexpected change in circumstances, or the natural grief of making a mistake. We cannot avoid the first pain. No amount of worry, no amount of planning, and no amount of rigid perfectionism can stop the fragile things in this world from occasionally breaking. It is simply the nature of a world where everything is impermanent. But the Buddha noticed something tragic about the human condition. When the first pain strikes, we immediately, unconsciously, shoot a second arrow into our own hearts. The second pain is what the mind adds to the first. It is the resistance. It is the desperate attempt to grind the stone against the granite. When you feel a natural flutter of anxiety, the first pain, your mind immediately panics and says, "I should not be anxious. What is wrong with me? If I do not stop this anxiety right now, it will ruin tomorrow." That judgment, that panic, that harsh self-criticism, that is the second pain. When you fall short of a goal, the natural consequence of that mistake is the first pain. But the days, weeks, and years you spend punishing yourself, calling yourself foolish, and believing you are unworthy of love, that is the second pain. You are tearing at your own skin over a mistake that has already passed into history. We cannot always control the first pain. Life will happen, the clay will occasionally shatter, but we can absolutely learn to stop feeding the second. You do not have to fight your own mind. When a wave of sadness, regret, or fear arises in the quiet of this room, you do not need to immediately understand it, fix it, or force it to disappear. You can simply let it be there. You can be like the vast, spacious mountain courtyard. You can say to the feeling, "I see you." You are allowed to pass through. This is the beautiful, quiet secret of true inner peace. We spend our whole lives waiting for a day when the ocean will be perfectly flat, a day when the wind will finally stop blowing, a day when we will finally have no flaws left to fix. We think peace is the absolute absence of difficulty. We think peace is the perfectly smooth, unbroken stone. But peace is not the absence of difficulty. Peace is a fundamentally different relationship with difficulty. Peace is knowing that the crack is there, but refusing to let the crack become your entire identity. It is the profound realization that you are not your anxious thoughts. You are not your past mistakes. You are not the heavy expectations that other people have placed upon your shoulders, and you are certainly not the harsh words of your own inner critic. You are the quiet, spacious awareness that observes all of these things passing through. You are the vast sky that holds the storm. If you try to stop a rushing river by standing in the middle of it, and pushing against the water with your bare hands, you will eventually drown in your own exhaustion. The water will always win. But if you step back, walk up the bank and sit quietly in the grass, the river is no longer your enemy. It is just water, flowing as it always has. You can watch it move, you can listen to its sound, but you do not have to carry it, and you do not have to fight it. Right now, in the absolute safety of this room, I invite you to step out of the river. If there is a thought about tomorrow that is pulling at your attention, gently recognize that it is just water rushing by. You do not need to jump in and wrestle with it. Just let it flow. If there is a heavy feeling of self-doubt or a lingering sense that you have not done enough today, recognize it as the second arrow. It is just a sensation, it is uncomfortable perhaps, but it cannot actually harm you unless you brace yourself against it and turn it into a weapon. Let your chest soften, let your belly relax. Allow the feeling to enter, swirl around for a moment, and naturally exit. Notice how, when you stop trying to fix yourself, a deep natural sense of wholeness begins to emerge on its own. You do not need to be repaired through punishment, because your deepest nature was never broken. You were only covered up by layers of exhaustion, fear, and the desperate, heartbreaking effort to be perfect. Underneath all that heavy armor, beneath the gripped shards of clay and the bleeding hands, there is a version of you that is incredibly soft, naturally wise, and completely at rest. This part of you does not need to earn love through endless labor or flawless behavior. This part of you is perfectly worthy of peace simply because you exist. As you breathe in, feel the cool night air returning you to this profound, unshakable truth. And as you breathe out, release one more heavy expectation you have been carrying. You do not have to be the perfect one tonight. The universe is entirely capable of holding itself together while you sleep. In a moment, we will explore what this beautiful realization looks like when the sun actually comes up. We will look at how to walk through your daily life, your work, your relationships, your ordinary chaotic moments, without picking the dark, cracked stone back up. We will gently uncover how to apply the golden lacquer of compassion to the stresses of the modern world. But for now, remain in this quiet, spacious emptiness. Feel the deep comfort of a mind that has finally, beautifully, stopped fighting itself. As you rest in this deep comfort entirely supported by the quiet of the night, you might gently wonder how to carry this profound spaciousness into tomorrow. It is easy to feel peaceful in the dark, when the world is asleep and nothing is being asked of you. But what happens when the sun rises? What happens when the silence of this room is inevitably replaced by the loud, chaotic, demanding noise of modern life? It is so incredibly easy, when faced with the pressures of the day, to instinctively reach back down and pick up that heavy, cracked stone of self-judgment. But tomorrow can be different. The peace you are touching right now is not a fragile, delicate thing that shatters the moment your alarm rings. Peace is simply practiced in small moments. It is a quiet, continuous choice to apply the golden lacquer of compassion to the ordinary fractures of your day. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning. Before your feet even touch the floor, the modern world will try to rush in. Your mind may habitually pull you toward the screen beside your bed. You might feel the familiar, anxious urge to immediately start checking the phone for reassurance. You might find yourself staring at a screen, waiting for a text message, allowing the silence of another person to completely dictate your sense of worth. In that brief, ordinary moment, you might notice the old habit rising, the tightening of the chest, the familiar fear of not being enough, the desperate need for external validation. When that happens, I invite you to simply pause.
A breath before answering is a form of wisdom.
You do not have to absorb the urgency of the world. You can look at the phone, recognize the small flutter of anxiety, and say to yourself, "This is just the first arrow. I do not need to shoot the second." You do not have to pour your precious energy into grinding the stone. You can simply take a slow, deep breath, feel the solid ground beneath your feet, and choose to begin your day at your own gentle pace. As you move through your morning, perhaps you will find yourself in those familiar spaces where you are so used to pretending to be okay. Maybe you will walk into your workplace or sit down with your family, feeling the immense exhausting pressure to smile while feeling incredibly heavy inside. For so long, you have believed that you must hide your exhaustion to be valuable. You have believed that if you show any crack in your armor, if you reveal that you are tired or overwhelmed, you will be a burden to the people around you. But remember the golden bowl. You do not have to be flawless to be beautiful. You can participate in your life without putting on the heavy mask of perfection. You can listen to a friend or care for a loved one without absorbing their anxiety as your own. When you find yourself trying to control a relationship, desperately trying to manage someone else's feelings, because you are fearing the future and terrified of uncertainty, gently remind your heart to soften. You can care deeply without gripping tightly. To love someone truly is to love them with open hands, allowing them to be exactly who they are, without needing to control the outcome to feel safe. And to love yourself truly is to allow yourself to be human in their presence. Perhaps later in the day, your mind will try to drag you into the painful trap of comparison. Scrolling through images of other people's lives, or simply listening to colleagues talk about their achievements, you might feel the sudden, sharp sting of comparing yourself to others. You might look at where they are and look at where you are, and feel the deep, aching grief of feeling behind in life. The inner critic will immediately awaken, whispering that you have wasted your time, that you have made too many mistakes, and that you are simply not enough. When this heavy wave crashes over you, remember that not every thought deserves obedience. Not every feeling is a command. The thought that you are behind in life is just a story. It is a harsh fictional narrative created by a society that values speed over depth and perfection over growth. You do not have to debate the thought. You do not have to prove it wrong. You can simply observe it, the way you would observe a dark, heavy cloud passing across a vast open sky. You can say to it, "I see you trying to protect me by keeping me small, but I do not need to punish myself today." Your timeline is uniquely your own. The detours, the pauses, and the mistakes are not signs of failure. They are the very cracks where the gold of your wisdom is being poured in. And what happens when you actually make a mistake tomorrow? Because you will. You are human, and the clay will occasionally slip from your hands. You might say the wrong thing in a meeting. You might lose your patience with someone you love. You might drop a project or forget a promise. Immediately, the old habit will rush in. You will find yourself replaying a mistake over and over again in your mind, rushing toward the dark cave of shame, ready to lock yourself inside. In that exact moment, practice the gentle art of the golden repair. Stop, breathe. Notice the tightening in your jaw and your hands, and then, intentionally, lovingly, wash your own hands in the warm water of self-compassion. You can forgive yourself. Without denying what happened, you can say, "I made a mistake, and I wish I had done better. But this mistake does not ruin my worth." You do not have to grind the stone of your heart into dust to pay for your error. You can simply apologize, make amends if needed, and gently, beautifully move on. When you stop treating every mistake as a permanent stain on your soul, you will find that a profound, quiet grace enters your daily life. The fear of the future dissolves, replaced by the simple, beautiful reality of just living this one ordinary day. And finally, think of what happens when the day ends. Think of returning to your quiet room, your body aching for sleep, wanting rest but feeling deeply guilty for resting. How many times have you lay awake at night, just as you did before we began this journey, going over a mental ledger of everything you accomplished, trying to calculate if you did enough to earn the right to close your eyes? How many times have you treated sleep as a reward for flawless productivity? This is the ultimate illusion of the exhausted heart. You do not have to earn your rest. Rest is not a prize given only to those who have completely finished their infinite to-do lists, because the list of life is never truly finished. Rest is your natural, inherent right. It is the quiet sanctuary where you are meant to return every single night to be restored. You can rest without earning it. You can be tired, unfinished, cracked and imperfect, and still be entirely worthy of profound peace. Let this truth sink deeply into your physical body right now. Feel the weight of it settling into your muscles, your bones, and your breathing. You do not need to be perfect anymore today. You do not need to be the judge, the jury, or the punisher. The world is carrying itself tonight, and it is entirely capable of carrying you too. As you lie here, noticing the slow, easy rhythm of your breath, realize that the deep transformation you have been seeking is already happening. It is not happening with a loud crash of sudden enlightenment. It is happening in the quiet, gentle unclenching of your hands. It is happening in the softening of your stomach. It is happening in the beautiful, silent permission you have finally given yourself to simply be perfectly, wonderfully human. Every time you choose not to fight a thought, you are practicing peace. Every time you choose to wash your hands instead of holding the sharp clay, you are walking the path of wisdom. Every time you forgive yourself, you are filling your own heart with brilliant, glowing gold. You have done beautifully tonight. You have bravely looked at the heavy burden of shame you were carrying, and you have had the immense courage to simply set it down. In a moment we'll let all of these words, all of these stories, and all of these gentle reflections dissolve entirely into the dark. We will leave the day completely behind and drift together into the deep, profound stillness of the night. There is nothing left to learn. There is nothing left to fix. There is only the sweet, heavy embrace of true, unbroken sleep. As the night deepens around you, let the busy, demanding world of tomorrow completely fade away. You have bravely looked at the heavy, cracked stone of your own self-judgment. You have felt the exhausting, burning friction of trying to grind your flaws into dust. And you have had the immense courage to finally set that burden down. The work of the mind is finished now. There is absolutely nothing left for you to solve tonight, nothing left for you to fix, and nothing left for you to punish. It is simply time to rest. Notice how the silence in your room feels a little softer now. It is no longer an empty, frightening space waiting to be filled with anxious thoughts or the harsh voice of the inner critic. It is a warm, thick, comforting blanket wrapping gently around you. Listen to the steady, quiet rhythm of your own breathing. It has slowed down. It has found its own natural, peaceful cadence, rising and falling without any effort, like the gentle, rhythmic tide of a calm, dark ocean gently meeting the shore. With every exhale, allow your physical body to become incredibly heavy. Imagine that beautiful, pale silver moonlight we spoke of earlier, spilling softly through your window. It pools on the floor, calm and steady, and gently washes over your bed, bringing with it a profound, cooling peace. Feel this gentle light touching your forehead. As it does, the last tiny stubborn threads of tension around your eyes completely dissolve. Your eyelids become comfortably heavy, so incredibly heavy that you could not open them even if you tried. They are perfectly, safely sealed in rest. Feel the silver light wash slowly over your face, drifting down your cheeks and settling into your jaw. If there is even a fraction of resistance left there, let it melt away into the cool air. Your jaw falls completely slack. The defenses you had to build today, the forced smiles you wore to protect yourself, the words you swallowed to keep the peace, they all drain away into the soft pillow beneath you. You do not have to hold your expression together anymore. The dark does not require a brave face. It only requires your peace. Let this heavy, warm relaxation pour slowly down your neck and cascade over your shoulders. Your shoulders have carried the crushing weight of your own impossible expectations for far too long. They have been braced against the memory of every mistake, rigid with the fear of falling short. But tonight, the trial is over, the courtroom is closed. Let your shoulders drop entirely. Let them sink so deeply into the mattress that you can no longer tell where your physical body ends and the bed begins. You are entirely supported by the earth below you. Feel the softness traveling down your arms, flowing gently past your elbows, moving through your wrists, and pooling quietly in your open hands. Your fingers are soft, resting peacefully against the woven threads of your blankets. The sharp pieces of ceramic are gone. The heavy, dark river stone is gone. Your hands are beautifully, perfectly empty, and they are clean. Let the weight of this deep, profound surrender travel down your spine, uncoiling any lingering tightness hidden in your back. Let it wash through your chest, bringing a feeling of vast, uncrowded space to your heart. The knot of shame has untied itself. Let this warm heaviness flow down through your hips, through your legs, moving past your knees, all the way down to the soles of your tired feet. Your entire body is now anchored to the bed, heavy, warm, and profoundly safe. You do not even need to hold on to the words we have shared tonight. You do not need to memorize these Buddhist teachings or turn them into another complicated task to master tomorrow. Let the stories of the young boy in the damp cave, the gentle elder monk with the lantern, and the beautiful golden-veined bowl gently dissolve into the quiet atmosphere of the room. They have already bypassed your busy, overthinking mind. They have already settled deeply into the quiet, knowing center of your heart. Your inner wisdom will remember them for you. You can let the words drift away now, like small paper boats floating gently down a dark, quiet river, slowly disappearing into the mist. Tonight, you are giving yourself the ultimate, beautiful permission to simply be. You are releasing the exhaustion of perfectionism. You are allowed to be tired. You are allowed to be unfinished. You are allowed to be cracked, flawed, and wonderfully, perfectly human. The world will continue to spin while you sleep. The stars will continue to hold their steadfast places in the vast night sky. The ancient trees will quietly breathe the night air outside your window. The universe is endlessly capable of carrying itself. It does not need you to punish yourself to keep it in balance. If a stray thought wanders into your mind now, do not even greet it. Just let it pass through the vast empty hall of your awareness. The doors are open, the wind blows in, and the wind blows out. You remain untouched in the center, resting in the pure, silent space of your own being. You are returning home. For so long, you looked for home in the fragile approval of others. You looked for home in the desperate attempt to erase your history and hide your mistakes. But home was never out there in the loud, demanding world. Home was always right here. It is this quiet, steady awareness beneath your thoughts. It is the clear, unbroken mirror beneath the dust. It is the part of you that has never been broken, never been ruined, and never been unworthy. It is the soft, breathing stillness in the very center of your chest. You are safe here. You are deeply understood. You are entirely forgiven for the things you could not carry, and you are deeply loved for the exact person you are right now. There is nowhere else to go. There is nothing else to fix. There is nothing else to do. Breathe in the cool night air and know that you are already whole. Breathe out and let the gentle darkness hold you close. Drift now. Sink deeper and deeper into the heavy, welcoming embrace of the mattress. Let the sharp boundaries of the day blur and fade entirely into the soft, comforting shadows. The stone is resting on the tray. The golden lacquer is glowing softly in the dark. The mountain is beautifully, perfectly silent. And as you finally surrender the last of your weary armor to the night, gently ask yourself, what if the cracks you spent your whole life trying to hide were the exact places where the light was always waiting to get in?